Hey, Cub fans! Thanks for joining us here on Cubs 24/7, where Randy talks Cubs. I had a rough night last night. I couldn't sleep. The I think what happened was the non-roster invitee list came out, and I put it into the weekend update. So if you haven't had a chance to see the weekend update, go ahead and check that out. But all I did was I just gave the list, and because that's all I had time to do. It just came out yesterday afternoon. I'm laying in bed last night and I'm kind of spinning around. I'm just like, okay, I can't not think about it. And I realized the reason is I feel very unorganized about the whole spring training situation. So I don't know if you feel the same way, but we just got this news of the invitees, and I mean, there's a lot of moving parts here, and I just was feeling disheveled. And I got up really early this morning and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get this thing squared away in my head. So here's what I did. I just sort of took the spring training roster. I've got 59 players to deal with, and I put them into 4 different categories, just so I could sort of separate them out and see who's who and make some decisions around this. And so I just want to share that with you. So kick back and let's just kind of get organized with the spring training roster, and we'll break it down. So there's 59 total, and I think 60 is the limit, but we've got 59 players that are scheduled to be playing and being involved in spring training, which is just around the corner. It's just next week when pitchers and catchers start having an official practice. So let's just go ahead and do it. Here's what I did. Of the 59 players, we've got 19 non-roster invitees, and we've got 40 on the 40-man roster. So 40 and 19 gives us 59. And, it's kind of a really cool thing. We've got basically, if you've never thought of it this way, during spring training, we're going to eliminate 33 players. 26 guys are going to go make the trip north, go to Wrigley. So there's 59. The question is, are they all really playing for a spot on that 26-man active roster? And I would say, yeah, I think they are. I mean, that's when you're there, that's what you're trying to do. Now, some guys have more of a shot than others, obviously, but I think that's what they're trying to do. So at the end of spring training, or as spring training progresses, of those 59 guys, they'll start to weed them out. And ultimately, all 59 will be assigned somewhere. Some will be assigned to the big club. Some will be assigned AAA, AA, Myrtle Beach. So, there's a lot. And if you ever found spring training boring, like, when there's a game on and they're just kind of playing, I never have. I've always watched it. I know that these guys that we're watching, some obscure catcher you've never seen, and he's catching a game, and I'm paying attention to that. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot riding on spring training for a lot of guys, and I just wanted to take some time and just sort of break it down and go through it. So here's what I did. I took all 59 players, and I put them into 4 categories. So let's just go through. I'll give you category 1. I did the math on it, so everybody is accounted for. And not only am I going to put them in different categories for us, I've got a list of some leftovers, and I've got kind of a thought about what is it that the non-roster invitees can tell us, because we're still in a situation where we haven't signed Cody Bellinger, we haven't signed Chapman, maybe we're not going to, and I think there's some players on this 19 player group of non-roster invitees that may give us some insight into what the plans are regarding a Cody Bellinger or Matt Chapman or Jordan Montgomery and the like. So just trying to look at the puzzle pieces as clues to what might be coming. So we'll try to cover that. So let's start with the first category. Category 1, I named it the Dansby category. And this is a category of players that I put in. It's subjective. You can disagree with it if you want to. But it's the category where I think these players are like, they're going north with the big club. They could go 0 for March, and they're still going. Nothing, barring injury, that happens to them during spring training is going to keep them from being on the opening day roster. That's the group, locked in, right? And I've got 12 of them. I've got 6 pitchers, and I've got 6 position players that I'm calling on the Dansby list. All right, so I'll just give them to you. I got Yan Gomes on it. I got Christopher Morel on it. I got Nico. I got Ian Happ. I've got Seiya Suzuki. Those are the position players. Pitchers, I've got Justin Steele, Jameson Tyone, Kyle Hendricks, Shota Imanaga. I got Adbert Alzolay, and I put Hector Neris on it. Those are my 12. I got 12 players that I think that's a lock. Nothing can happen to them. So they may or may not play. You know, they'll limit their time. We might not see a whole lot of them in spring training, but that's the group. The second group of 12, I have named the Miguel Amaya group, just because I could. That's what happened. Miguel Amaya, to me, is pretty locked in. I mean, he's going to get his chance. I'm not saying he's like locked in like Gomes is. Gomes is going to be on the squad for sure, and I think Miguel is too. So this is a list of 12 players that I think are sort of in that category. Not a lock, but like I really would be surprised if they didn't make it. Not that they can't. Anything can happen. So here's the Miguel Amaya list I've got. Position players, I got Miguel. I've got Mike Tauchman. I've got Michael Bush. I've got Pete Crow Armstrong. I've got Patrick Wisdom. I've got the new beefed up version of Nicky Barrels, Nick Madrigal. And those are the 6 position players. And again, we can argue it either way, but this is just a category that I put them in so that I could compartmentalize it and organize it. The 6 pitchers that I have on this list are Yency Almonte, Mark Leiter Jr., Drew Smiley, Javier Assad, Jose Cuas, and Julian Merriweather. So 12 and 12, that's 24. And right there I start to think, boy, it's going to be really hard to make this Cubs squad. If you come north with the Cubs this year out of spring training, boy, you've run the gauntlet. You've really positioned yourself. There's a lot of good players outside of these first 2 categories. I got 24 of them already. I'm telling you, it's a very interesting spring. Let's go ahead and go to the next group. The next group is a group of 16 players, and I named it the Canario group because Alexander Canario, to me, is like, boy, he's really intriguing. I'd like to see him play. You know, he's Canario, Kevin Alcantara, and PCA are the 3 guys that I think are different than the rest because those are the three players we acquired when we traded Javier Baez, Riz, and KB. So I think there's something special about those 3 guys. So I put PCA on the first list. Well, I got Canario and Alcantara on the third list of 16 that I think 1, 2, 3 of them could probably make it. Right? First list, they're all going to make it. Second list, the majority of them are going to make it. And in the list of 16, 1 or 2 could make it. But who are they? So here's my list of 16 on my Canario list. Players that, it's just math now. There's 16 players at this point, and there's 2 spots. So Alexander Canario, Kevin Alcantara. I got Brennan Davis, Miles Mastroboni, Matt Mervis, and Luis Vasquez. Those are the position players on the list. I've got 10 pitchers and just 6 position players. The pitchers, I've got Michael Arias, Ben Brown, Porter Hodge, Bailey Horn, Caleb Killian, Luke Little, Daniel Palencia, Keegan Thompson, Hayden Wesneski, and Jordan Wicks. Now, the thing that everybody has in common to this point, all three of these groups, the Dansby group, the Miguel group, the Canario group, they're all on the 40-man roster. That's who we've got. So now we go from that group to the fourth group, and it's the non-roster invitees. There's a total of 19 of them. And back to, I want to talk about what does the invites mean in terms of the big picture. Why did that guy get invited and somebody else didn't? And there's 3 or 4 really kind of interesting scenarios here that I want to cover. So let's just go back through, organize this non-roster invitee list of 19 players. We have in the world of pitchers, we've got Colton Brewer, right-hand pitcher. We got 7 right-hand pitchers. 7 right-hand pitchers, 4 left-hand pitchers. Spread that out. The right-hand pitchers are Colton Brewer, Chris Clark, Carl Edwards Jr., Sam McWilliams, and Ethan Roberts, coming back from that Tommy John surgery, Cam Sanders, and Riley Thompson. And when I look at that list of right-handers, I just put a little mark by Carl Edwards Jr. and Ethan Roberts as guys that I really want to pay attention to. I want to see how healthy Ethan is, and I want to see what Carl Edwards looks like. I think he's to me a very interesting piece. So there's 2 right-hand pitchers that I think are intriguing on the non-roster invitee list. Let's go to the lefties. Left-hand pitchers Edwin Escobar, Richard Lovelady, Thomas Pannone, and Brad Wick. What's interesting about Brad Wick to me is we acquired Brad Wick on the Carl Edwards Jr. trade, and here they are both on the non-roster invitee list. Interesting. So the two, listen, we want to look at all of them, right? But I'm just saying to myself, on that list, who do I want to really pay attention to? And I picked out Richard Lovelady and Brad Wick. Those are the 2 lefties that I'm pretty interested in watching. So there's the 11 pitchers on the non-roster invitee list. Let's go to the outfield. We only have one. Owen Casey is the lone outfielder on the non-roster invitee list. And he's obviously going to be interesting to watch too. But I mentioned this in a previous video where Owen Casey has been taking a lot of reps at first base. And I think that's kind of true. We've got a lot of guys who are starting to take reps in other positions because of the potential of them being blocked. The young stars need a portal to enter. And, Dansby's going to be at shortstop. So, it's blocked. So Owen Casey is starting to take some reps at first base, so he should be able to play outfield, first base, and DH. But Owen Casey on the non-roster invitee list. We've got 4 catchers, and spring training catchers. They're needed, but is it realistic that these non-roster invitee catchers make the opening day squad? Well, no, unless there's an injury of some type. So we've got 4 catchers, and 3 of them are right-handed hitters, but we do have a left-handed hitting catcher. I'll give you the right-handers first. We've got Jorge Alfaro, we've got Pablo Aliendo, and we've got Joe Hudson, are all righty catchers. The lefty is Bryce Wyndham, hits left. Now, from an experience perspective, we've got 2 of these guys who have major league experience. The most experience is Jorge Alfaro. I think it's pronounced Alfaro to be correct on it. And Joe Hudson has a little, but Jorge is the most experienced catcher of that group. So if you're saying, well, who's the most experienced? Who might we need in a pinch? Jorge might be that guy. But Bryce Wyndham is the most athletic, and he hits left-handed. He doesn't have any major league experience, but he played. He's had a really good season in Iowa, and they list him as not only a catcher, but he can play some infield too. So the things that I've seen and read about Bryce Windham is a freaky athlete, and he's knocking on the door. So if we need a catcher at this point, who's it going to be? Could be Alfaro, or it could be Bryce Windham. We'll have to see. In terms of the infielders, the first one I want to talk about is Chase Strump. I'll admit I was really surprised when I saw Chase's name on the invite list. He's on he's a top 30 prospect, but I just didn't see him ahead of certain people, and I was surprised. I sort of thought B.J. Murray might be ahead of Chase, but Chase Strump, infielder, on the list. The other one is Matt Shaw. Matt Shaw is an infielder on the non-roster invitee, and they're looking for a home for him. So we're going to see Shaw probably play third base, second base this spring. The player who really got my attention when I saw his name, like of all the 19 non-roster invitees, it was David Bodie who really struck me. And it struck me because I didn't expect it. And now that I've had time to sort of digest it and think about what does the fact that David Bodie has been invited to spring training, what maybe does that mean? And we're going to talk about David Bodie here. Before I do, because I'm going to walk through David Bodie. But David Bodie is, to me, I think he's pivotal here. I'll get to it. I'm excited. God, I can't wait. This is going to be how much fun is this going to be, really? I mean, it's just going to be amazing to watch this spring training. Who did they pass over? Okay, I just took the prospect top 30 list, and the first person that jumps out is Cade Horton. Cade Horton's not on the list. He didn't make the non-roster invitee. Why? Well, I don't know. We can only speculate. I don't know what the internal information that we don't have might be, but let's just take what we have. Okay, Cade Horton. Maybe they don't need to see Cade Horton, right? Maybe they just go, we'll let Cade. We're going to ease Cade in. Maybe they've made the decision already. They're going to start Cade in the minors, either at Tennessee or Iowa. Let him throw a few games, get the veterans a chance to see what happens, as opposed to just putting Cade Horton on the opening day roster and putting all that pressure on him. Maybe they've just made that decision already to ease him in, and that would make sense to me as well. So, but we don't know. But Cade Horton is left off. I was surprised that Moises Ballesteros was left off, catcher. I thought he would probably be there, and he's not. I was a little surprised that James Triantos was left off, because we've been watching Triantos, I have anyway, over the last week. He's in Mesa, and I think I mentioned earlier that he was taking some at-bats hitting lefty. So I think he might be working on his switch hitting abilities. So Ballesteros and Triantos, Cade Horton, B.J. Murray getting left out, I thought were all kind of interesting. I mean, it's numbers. Somebody has to be left off. Whoever would be left off on that bubble would be noteworthy. But back to David Bodie. David Bodie is an intriguing piece, and the reason I'm going to talk about him in some detail is because he might be the answer to why we haven't signed Cody Bellinger and why we haven't signed maybe a Matt Chapman, right? So, well, what do you mean? Well, David Bodie's experienced. David Bodie's under contract. We're paying David Bodie $3 million. David Bodie in 2024 is in the last year of that contract that he signed in, I believe, is for the in 2019 for the 2020 season. So he signed a 5-year, $15 million deal, and he's in his last year of that contract. Cubs have options for 25 and 26 on it as well. David Bodie has been good at times, but to me, he disappeared. He hasn't been on the 40-man roster. He played in Iowa all of last year, and I'm going to give you his numbers. And I'm just thinking it might be a possibility where they're going to give Boat a chance to maybe fill in. Like, we've been talking about how to bridge the gap possibly, right? If you sign Chapman to a long-term contract, which is what he wants, that's the same reason we haven't probably signed Cody Bellinger yet. Cody Bellinger wants a long-term contract. So if we're going to sign a Matt Chapman and a Cody Bellinger to a long-term contract, that blocks the kids that we've got. So we've got all these young prospects that are just incredibly talented. And are we going to set ourselves up to just block those guys? But at the same time, well, we want to win now. Are they ready now? And maybe they're not ready, but they're close. So a David Bodie would be like a poor man's Matt Chapman, or somebody who could be really serviceable for 1 year as a bridge between where we are now and where these kids are going to be ready. It just struck me that may be the plan. Now, whether or not Bodie can do it or not, I wasn't sure. So I just took a look at what Bodie did last year. Played in Iowa the whole time. So in Iowa, he played 99 games. And there's a couple interesting things in this. Played in 99 games in Iowa, had 425 plate appearances, 360 at-bats, had 93 hits, hit for some power, had 14 home runs, drove 61 runs in, walked 53 times, struck out 96. Here's his slash. He hit 258, 361 on base with a 456 slug, OPS at 816. But here's what's interesting. He played everywhere. He played in his 99 games, he played 13 games at first base. He played 31 games at second base. He played third base 9 times. He played shortstop 37 games. He played left field 6 games, and he DH'd 5 games. They played him everywhere, every position in the infield and left field. How'd he do? He did good, really. No errors at first base and left. Only had 1 error at third base. He had 2 at second, and he made 4 at shortstop. Serviceable, veteran, with some pop, decent on base. He's 31 years old. I don't know. What do you guys tell me? That's just kind of an interesting possibility, and I guess it leads me to think, well, maybe we're not. Maybe that's the idea. Maybe we're just going to plug a hole with some stopgap veteran who is serviceable and bring the kids along on our schedule, on their schedule. It's going to be very interesting. I could be way off, but why did David Bodie wasn't on the 40-man roster? He's a 31-year-old. He's not a prospect. Why would he get a spot on the, the non-roster invitees list as opposed to one of the prospects? I guess that's my thought. There's got to be a reason behind it, and I don't know. Financially, he's basically free because we're paying him $3 million no matter what. But he hasn't been on the 40-man roster. He played the entire season in Iowa. So I just thought it was intriguing, and that is what was keeping me up all night, trying to get my head around that. So I feel better now. I feel like I've got kind of an organization in my head, and I can pick it out, and I'm ready to watch it. But meantime, we're still waiting on some trades. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But let's say Jed is done. If Jed is done and that's what we've got, we've got a lot of guys. It's still going to be a very competitive spring training. It's going to be so much fun to watch. I couldn't be more excited. So that's the update on the spring training roster, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm probably going to be doing some profiles on some of these guys that we don't have. As you get into the spring training, go ahead and look through the playlist. I've got quite a few profiles on some of those guys. So I'm going to look through the list, and players that I don't have a profile up on that I think I should, I'll go ahead and be putting that together this week as well. So you can be looking for some profiles on players that I haven't done a profile yet. Busy, lots of stuff to do. Cub fans are busy. Guys, thanks for joining us here on Cubs 24/7, where Randy talks Cubs. I appreciate you hitting that subscribe button for me if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys very soon. Go Cubs, go.